Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today is a new day that the Lord has made for us. We should rejoice and be glad in it. It's been a while since we made here. It's been a while, it's a long time ago since we made a video. A lot has been going on, and I thought maybe it's good to just chill and relax. But today, being right now, it's about it's coming to 1 p.m. And I thought, it's important for us to meet here and talk about one thing or two. And today I thought it's wise we talk about retrogression because, okay, this is to all nurses out there who have been in the migration process and then things got stagnated for some reason. And then there is this big word that everybody is hearing that we don't even understand what's happening, like we don't know what it is. So I thought, why not? Let's talk about it because we said in this channel, it's all about educating each other, like learning what we don't know. And I thought it's important for us to talk about retrogression. Now, what is retrogression? In my kwenye zile harakati ama pilka za kuchunguza ndo we understand what is retrogression, I made up some few points to note here and there. And if you Google up, you'll understand retrogression. Even it's just a word, it's a word in English that means going back to our worst state or going back to the state that was there earlier before. So if you Google up or if you go back to your dictionary, it will tell you that retrogression is a process of returning or moving back to an earlier state, typically maybe a worse situation than it is currently, okay? Maybe like if, for example, in a managerial position, if there is a management that is doing incompetent things than the way it used to be, you would say incompetent management has led to the economy to retrogression. Giving an example with the country, the state that we are in right now, people would say, you hear people saying, during the last regime, we used to have fuel at 90 Kenyan shillings, but right now a liter of fuel, it's retailing up to about 200 or something. So you see, the current situation is like it's retrogressing to a worse situation. It's like the country is not moving, so to say, the country is not moving forward. Rather, it's going backwards to a worse state than we were before. Okay, so that is typically a retrogression. But now, in this case, we would talk of maybe a society. Another example that I came up with is a society that sidelines women is always retrogressing or is headed to a retrogression, because many a times you find that people say panapo wanawake, like where there is women, okay, well, I'm not being biased or something, I'm not being to be like feminism or something, but I'm just saying you find that there is a society whereby they don't value women, they don't value women's says they don't value women's contribution to the society, for the development of the society, something close to that. So you find that in an example that you'll be given, they say a society that does not value women is headed to a retrogression state. Like you guys will never move. At some point you will just be retrogressed. You're not moving. If you will move, you'll move backwards. You understand? So in this case, what are we talking about? Maybe, and then we get to understand that retrogression can have different meanings, or it can have synonyms. What are we calling them synonyms? Words that means the same with the word retrogression. Like a word, if you use a word throwback, there is this moment that you normally see on social media saying today is a throwback Thursday. I mean, if I show you a photo of myself 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it's not how I'll be, because you're throwing back to the times that were there. Maybe I'm throwing back to a worse situation that I was back then than what I am right now. We are just throwing back. We are retrogressing. You understand? Or you would say a retreat, like you're retreating back to the memories, going back to the memory, a recession, a retroactive, something close to that. The opposite is developing. I mean, moving forward, So in this case, let's talk about retrogression in terms of nursing, or retrogression in terms of when you're talking about visas. We all know a visa is a permit that you're given to work or stay in a different country other than your native country. In this case, we're talking about nurses. Nurses are moving from one country to the other. Maybe be it Canada, you're moving from Kenya or your country of origin, maybe like Kenya, you're moving to Uganda, you're just moving. So you need a letter to allow you to work in that country. That's what we're calling a visa. You need a permit. You need permission to work in that country. You can't just pop in that country and start working as a nurse. Unless you tell me you want to work there as a quack or something, because you've not been given permission to work there. So in this case, we're talking about visas. Visas, they are, after you've gone through the immigration process for you to, like if you're a nurse, you've gone through the whole process, you have to be permitted to go and work in the US. In this case, we'll talk about the US because retrogression is affecting the nurses who are trying to migrate to the US. There has been this case of retrogression ever since the month of, you are in the month of July right now. So ever since the month of, going backwards, June, May, April, since March, around March, February, if my memory serves me right, there were these stories of like the country has gone into a retrogression phase, like no more visas are being permitted, like no more nurses are being permitted to go and work in the US. No more nurses are being permitted to migrate to the US. Why? And what is happening? What is the situation at the ground that is making nurses not to get visas? What is the situation on the ground that is making nurses to be denied visas to go to the US? Is it temporary or is it permanent? What is the fate of those people who had already started the process? What is the way forward? Where are we? Like me personally, where am I lying? Why is it that everybody wants to ask you, hey, Zippy, why haven't you left? Because there is retrogression. Why is it that there is retrogression? Why have you not been given permission to go and work in the country? Yet all your documentation, all your paperwork, everything has gone through. I mean, why are you stagnating? That is what I want us to talk about right now. Visas, if you were to give, like right now in the country, you'd hear everybody saying that Kikuyus are happy because the price of potatoes, which is a cash crop in their area, has gone down because the demand is low because the production is high. I don't know whether I made it clear. I mean, those people who are from Nyandarua, I mean, the cash crop is potatoes, and then you find like they are the Kikuyus are happy because the potatoes are not expensive. Why? Because the production is high and the demand is low because, I mean, they are in plenty. So, I mean, people are happy. The potatoes are there. So you can eat potatoes the way you want. You want to make a jacket potatoes. You want to make French fries. You want to make whatever. I mean, the production is high than the demand. Now we go back to the visa. The visas in every fiscal year, there is something that we normally call fiscal year in the United States of America, in the embassy, the United States Immigration and Staff, in their department. So there is normally something they call a fiscal year. In the country where I'm talking about, where I come from, Kenya, there is normally something we normally say, a financial year. Financial year of the government normally is from June to June, if I'm correct. Yeah? Correct me, comment down below and tell me. The financial year of the country normally is between June and June of the next, like of the following year. That's a bracket of a whole 12 months, which makes it a financial year of the country, of the government, okay? So in the US, the Department of Issuing Visa, there's something they call a fiscal year, in such a way that there is a number of visas, different visas that have been allocated to be issued to the people who are seeking either immigration or migration. They're two different things. Remember, you can go to US as an immigrant, which means you're completely migrating from your country to go to seek permanent citizenship in that country and stuff. Or maybe you're just migrating for maybe like a period of 5 years, then you come back to your country and continue with your life. You understand? So in this case, in the fiscal year, normally it begins from October to October. So you find that now in the year 2023, 2022, the number of visas that had been allocated for the EB3, the category 3 of the skilled workers, the skilled laborers, where the nurses fall in that category, they have exhausted the number of visas that they had allocated. Assuming we do this scenario with you, the number of visas that had been allocated in the year 2022-2023 was maybe 14,000, right? The US government had said we need 14,000 skilled workers or skilled laborers to come from any nurse who is trained out of the country to come to the US as an immigrant under that category of the EB3 visa because visas are different, like I've mentioned earlier. Visas are different. So in this case, the nurses who are migrating, any nurse who's been trained out of the country, the US now, in this case, if I mention a country, I'm meaning the US. Any nurse who's been trained overseas and would wish to work in the United States of America should have gone through the immigration process and acquired an EB3 visa, whereby we're saying it's for the skilled laborers. And then the US government has allocated and said the number of people that we will issue this visa should be about 30,000 or 14,000 or whatever. Now you find in this fiscal year of 2022-2023, the number of visas who have been issued the EB3 visa category has already been exhausted. So what happens? We go back to the former state, whereby you're taken back to a state that is worse in such a way that you'll have to wait until now the next fiscal year for them to allocate other more visas, whereby you will fall in that category of maybe acquiring a visa. All right? So you hear people saying there is this priority day, there is this complete case, there is documentarily complete. Where do you lie? You've already finished your NCLEX exam, you've already done your everything, but then at the end of the day, you've not moved. Why are you not moving? What's happening? Like, what really happened? Why have I not gone to the US? It's because the country, in this case, the United States Embassy or something, the immigration office, the department, has already exhausted the number of visas allocated for that fiscal year. So what happens after that? You have to wait until now we come to the next the next fiscal year, so that at least the number of visas that have been allocated until that, now for the year 2023-2024, because we'll begin 2023 in October this year up to October next year. We're not talking about those people who are going through green card, like the green card lottery and stuff. We're talking about the skilled workers, the skilled laborers, because we fall in that category. If you're a nurse out there, you've been trying to pursue the process of immigration and stuff, you fall in that category of the EB3 visa. Google up, you'll understand what is that. But at least I'm trying to chambua hapa na pale so that we understand and we come into terms. So you'll find that the number of visas that have been allocated for this year, they are over. That's why you're being told it's not permanent. Like, it's not permanent. It's only that with I keep on mentioning financial because of where I come from. Within this fiscal year, we've exhausted the number of visas that we need to allocate, that had been allocated for the immigrants. So you'll have to wait until October. Come October, we see whether we will move forward, which is also a tricky situation, because we might get to that year. You find that because the number of people who had applied for green card in the year 2022-2023 has been rolled over, or other visas has eaten up to your visa category and stuff. Like, you see, if now, for example, we're talking about the skilled laborers, and there is EB1, EB2, and EB3. If EB3 their visas have been eaten by the EB2, because I understand there's a time the Kenyan green card lottery people who had won had gone to the court to sue the United States Immigration Council or something, the state, claiming that they had already applied, they won the green card lottery, nothing has moved on. So you find that those people who had been, the visa that had been allocated for the EB3 category has been reduced, so that they share some to the EB2 category visas. I don't know whether I'm making sense. You have two kids, you had given them equal food, but one of them has a high metabolism, right? So this one who has a high metabolism says, my food is too little, I'm not satisfied. So what will you do? Because you don't have any more food in the store, you go to the one who had not finished their food. However much you had given them the same amount of food, you go to the one who had not finished their food and divide some small portion and give this other one. So there are those rumors that in the year 2021, 2022, something close to that happened. Those people who had applied for green card lottery, they stayed for long because of the pandemic that we had worldwide for COVID, and then there was immigrant issue during the former president of the US, Donald Trump, the way he had closed down for the immigrants and stuff. So there was a way those people who had applied for green card lottery and they were not getting visas, some of the EB3 visas were divided and a portion of it was allocated to the green card ones. okay? The lottery ones, because even these ones are still under the green card stuff and everything. But now, what are we trying to say? In these case scenarios, the only thing that you who had applied and who had completely finished your documentation, like your documentary complete, we call it complete case. If you're already in complete case, in that state of complete case, and you've not gotten your appointments, the embassy, so that you go and get your visa, it means you can only pray that we do not get to a state of, when you get to the next fiscal year that's come October, if we don't manage to get dates in between now and then come October, you find that you've retrogressed backwards. Because when the retrogression, during the visa bulletin in May 2023, we're in 2023, the embassy gave us the bulletin and said, we've retrogressed back up to those people who had a priority date. Like if you had already started applying for your green card petition, if you had been petitioned, like you had already, the I-140 means you are petitioning for the green card, right? You're applying for the green card. So if you had applied for the green card, you had petitioned for the green card, if your I-140 was approved, I-140 is all about green card and stuff. You Google and you'll understand. If you had an I-140 approved by the month of June 1st, 2022, it means you're lucky because you'll get an appointment date. But then again, during this month, the visa bulletin this month, they gave a bulletin and said, again, the retrogression has retrogressed back. Because remember, we said retrogression is moving backwards to a worse state than it was currently, all than it is currently. So they said, again, we've moved backwards. We're not moving forward, but we've moved again backwards. Like retrogression has retrogressed backwards in such a way that if you had a date, if your priority date was up to 1st of June again, 2022, you still stand no chance of getting a visa. Up to those people who had their papers up to the month of May 1st, up to the month of Feb 2022. So the only thing you can do right now is pray that when we get to next month, which is August, we get good news, we get a good visa bulletin, and maybe they tell us that retrogression has been waived or something, or we get to current. Now, in my whatever, like I've said, in a nutshell, increased demand for visas exceeding the statutory limits. It means visas are not available, right? To non-statutory, a status. You understand? Statutory and non-statutory. Non-statutory is you Kenyan who is seeking for immigration to get to the US, all right? So there is increased demand for visas exceeding the number of people. Like I've told you, the demand is high, the production is low. The production is high, so you find that in this case scenario, the demand, guys, what I was trying to explain is, like we said, we have the statutory and the non-statutory citizens. The non-statutory citizens are those people who are not US citizens. You've not attained any US citizen, or you're from the US. You're not a US citizen. Those, in this case scenario, it applies to every nurse who is trained out of America and is seeking immigration to go and practice and work as a nurse in the United States. So you are an unstatutory. So in this case, what I was trying to explain before I got distracted, sorry about that, we are saying the number of visas that are in demand for the non-statutory citizens is quite high, in such a way that it cannot meet the demand, as in the number of visas that are there, or the production of visas, or whatever term that you want to use, the number of visas in the states is quite high than the number of people who need that visa. In this case, we would say the number of people who are immigrating, the number of nurses who want to go and work in the United States are quite high, other than a long time ago, there are not many people who really wanted to go and work in the United States. So right now, the number of people who want to go and work in the United States, the number of people who want to immigrate are quite high than the number of visas that have been allocated. So unless the United States of America, the government maybe changes and says, instead of us issuing the EB3 visa category, like 14,000 or maybe 30,000, we increase the number of the number of visas because the demand is high. But what is happening currently is they have not increased the production of visas, they have not increased the production, the issuance of visas, but rather they've gone into a stagnation. We've gone back to the states, to the previous state, that no one is moving. We don't want any people, not like really we don't need, or we don't, the demand of nurses in the states is high, but again, you have to be permitted for you to go and work there. So what we are talking about is not that nurses will not migrate, they will still immigrate, but it's after the number of visas that are needed. Maybe they increase the production. Maybe like the way we are saying right now, the production of potatoes is quite high. So the demand, you find that the demand goes low. And like when the production is low, the demand of course goes high. I mean, you understand these things, we did them in commerce. If you did commerce, you would understand what I'm saying, right? So guys, without further much ado, let me say this. If you're a nurse, you've been practicing as a nurse in your country and you're still seeking migration, and you hear people, those people who've already completed who are completely, like documentarily complete, we call it complete case. You hear people asking you, Ushafika complete case, like you're already on complete case. They're like, yes. And you've not moved. Hey, me, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I think I'll have to go to the UK. I want to go and to do researches about Canada. You know, don't give up yet, because it does not mean that we are temporary, that we are permanently on retrogression. However, there are some countries like India, Philippines, who've been in retrogression state for quite some time. Others 2019, others since 2009, known as have been migrating. So it depends on how the country, I mean the United States of America will issue. So the only thing we can do right now is to pray without ceasing, guys. Pray without ceasing. If you're in the process, pray for your people, pray for your colleagues who are ahead of you, so that at least if they move, you will definitely move. But you see, if you stay there telling yourself, oh, you're not affected, because at the end of the day, you've not finished your exams, you're not done yet with your exams and everything. So you're kind of rejoicing because you're not affected. You're also affected in a way. Because, I mean, we would want a state whereby it's like production and moving, production and moving. But you see now, when you're in that stagnation, it's just like when a river is stagnating. I mean, so many bad things happen. Because like right now, people had made plans, people had big ideas, people had big projects awaiting, but they had to keep them on hold. That like they had to keep them on hold, in the sense that they knew, after I'm done with NCLEX, I'm documentarily complete after 1 year. Because basically after you do NCLEX, like they give yourself like an year or two, by the time you're done with your immigration process and everything, for you to get to the state of like your documentarily complete. Give it like an year or something, an year and a half. Give it 12 months to 18 months. So if you don't move, it means even others, if these people who are currently affected by the retrogression, if they don't move, it means you'll also get affected. So pray for your people, pray for your pray for your colleagues, let's pray for better things to happen, right? And then that is it. I think this video will help somebody. I hope it will help out. I hope it will help shed some light, because you hear people asking about, like, what is this retrogression? What are they saying? What is this documentarily complete? What is this thing that they're talking about? We're not understanding. And then that's why I thought, like, why not? Because we said, I mean, it's all about educating each other. Why not? So guys, bye bye, until next time, see you. Pew pew.